So I'm very casual in this space. I love just like really bringing up interesting topics and using dreams as a tool, but also very explorative in conversation. So please, if you have any questions, don't be shy, ask it in the chat. I'll get to it towards the end of this. And the topic tonight is dreams in space. I like hosting these workshops at least once a month. I think it's fun for different themes and topics and just showing how relatable dreams can be in the space industry, specifically with like engineering as well as space exploration with the astronauts and even analog astronauts in their simulations. So tonight I would like to introduce my idea that I is my analog missions. It's a program that I hope to integrate into already existing programs, and the concept is the inner frontier of human performance. I call it the origin point, where everything begins with the human mind and what's capable internally and how it represents in an external reality and how you relate or explore or innovate, all the good stuff. So, why dreams in space matter is the first kind of topic here. And it's understanding the origin point as an actual program. So this is going to be just an introduction to the concept. And we're going to start with dreams because that's kind of my origin point with a lot of this and my own curiosity. And I love the subconscious mind, and it's has a lot of untapped potential in the understanding of it. So dreaming is its biggest voice, in my opinion. Dreams are a little complex in the sense that they speak a different language with symbolism, and a lot of the times people have emotional reactions to them. But when it comes to what is actually going on and what's the meaning behind the symbolism, is usually where people get lost. So the main first step would be to create an inner dialogue where you actually understand your symbolism. I believe it's Robert Moss who says, dreams are made by you for you. So at the end of the day, symbolism can have a very colorful chart of definition, but it's really what resonates with you in the way you're emotionally connecting to the meaning of it. If it's emotional or even logical, you're kind of using like the fullness of your psyche to relate to the meaning of this. So it creates this inner dialogue and understanding. Once you actually understand how your subconscious mind's language works, uh, you get to take it to a step further. And this is really learning how to program and collaborate with this part. And this is where I kind of start to collaborate it almost in a technology terminology. Just like your computer system or an AI or connecting to the internet, your subconscious mind has a lot of complexity to it and so much untapped potential in the sense it's a tool, just like you would have your tool belt, right? So it's really learning how to use your brain in a very unique way. So dreams allow us to experience this in our own subjective reality, and making it something unique where everybody has their own relation to it. This also builds a lot of cognition. My favorite is lucid dreaming, when you have a sense of awareness that you're in the dream and it's not just you kind of letting the dream take you on this story, but you are interacting and collaborating it. This is when a sense where you are consciously aware and you've got this muscle already developed enough to kind of take it to the next level of really getting that tool space and that tool belt going on. This develops a lot of cognition in the senses it can be as creative as you want it to be and out of the box. So let's say if you're an engineer and you're trying to problem solve or create a new tech or something, right, a tool that you need in getting to space. You might be struggling with it in the daytime. It might be giving you anxiety or stress, getting your front lobe all twisted up and weird. When you allow space for your subconscious mind to do what it does, especially in the dream space, you can actually experiencing it. So your subconscious mind will literally be putting the puzzle pieces together for you and allowing you to experiencing something you had not experienced in the daytime yet, which does build cognition, right? When it comes to space exploration or even mission purposes, you can experience and practice this in a lucid state over and over again, to where you're building the muscle memory, you're building the cognitive ability, the emotional standpoints to do this in real time in your physical realm. So dreams are great in the sense it's a VR tech almost. And adaptation. The adaptation through dreams prepares us for real life challenges, improving our resilience and our flexibility. And I think I probably brought some of that up with the way I spoke about cognition development too. But it's really pushing that out of the box limitations, or pushing past limitations. In the dream state, you're able to play around with plenty of different possibility and outcomes. You can problem solve, you can go through different portions. So I think that's when people like to compare it to like quantum dreaming or conscious dreaming. But it's a sense that there are a lot of different possibilities at the core of some of those theories. And though it may not actually be quantum physics, but it's how we relate to the philosophy it and we can experience in the dream state. You can play out a million different things and adapt to it and train for it in the dream state, especially with lucidity. So I feel that there definitely will be a lot of training in the sense of getting you in lucid states and start really actually utilizing it. And dreams enhance problem solving and adaptability. Dreaming acts as a cognitive stimulator, allowing us to navigate challenges and devise creative solutions in our waking life. I always say dreams really do have a history of being at the core of a lot of out of the box thinking, getting inspiration, if it be in the creative arts or even the science and the mathematics. A lot of our scientific breakthroughs actually came through the subconscious mind, and it was coming through the dream states. And it had such a heavy input or influence on the scientists or the dreamer to where they were able to measure it in the daytime and really integrate it into their work. So we see a lot of this just throughout history in so many ways. And I feel like I could probably do a different type of workshop just on that alone. The science of dreams. This is kind of going with a lot of the dream research. I do work in the International Association of Dream Studies, that community. So a lot of the studies that have been going on from the 70s up to current day are based in the REM sleep period. A lot of it's going off of like rapid eye movements. Sorry about that. And really trying to prove that lucidity can exist in some type of response in the physical form. Though I have my own, I feel like that's like barely scraping the surface. I think we can make that a lot cooler in unique ways. So that's something that I personally want to bring as a technique forms, where we bring dreamers into a lucidity form, which you can see as phase 2 is lucid dreaming enables self-awareness and control within the dreams. I believe that lucidity can actually exist in other brainwave states, not just REM, as it's just a form of self-awareness. So at that point, we can work on techniques that make you more lucid in these states, and you can kind of amplify and be more creative in not just the different brainwave states, but also how you problem solve, and the cognitive training on that. A lot of other things too, but I believe we can actually prove lucidity in a very interesting sorts going through that. One of the ideas was using Morse code or muscle movement, being able to lucidly connect to your body function while not waking up. Some interesting concepts behind that. That will obviously there's some tech behind that, which would be like EEGs, EOGs, and like 3 other ones that would probably be very good. Just some of the science of where it was back when it first started to the potential of what it really could be doing, I think in the next 10 years, very easily. So that's some of the stuff I would like to see personally just developed and trained as a sense of a tool. And then it's understanding the micro movements beyond eye signals. Obviously, I mentioned the eye signals I felt were a bit problematic in the sense that we have those already naturally existing in the REM states. So I think reading those can kind of be a gray area a little bit. So I would like to see it go further in the sense of actually getting some muscle reaction from other body parts, like finger movements. Micro movements communicate unseen signals. These subtle actions can reveal hidden thoughts and intentions. Finger tapping as a communication method, including if you were using like Morse code, for example. This technique can enhance understanding and convey messages effectively. Some of these ideas actually, once developed, could get into some pseudoscience concepts, but I do believe it has to start somewhere simple in the sense of some of these basic things. So, of course, exploring brainwave states as training for lucid dreams. And I love these so much. Brainwave training enhances EEG patterns, promoting lucidity and improves neural feedback for better dream control. There is so much going on here, and I don't see it just in dream states. I do see it in meditative forms, and then you experiencing these states during the day. So it's really just kind of becoming more aware of when you're experiencing maybe a transition or going into a different brainwave state, how to utilize it as a tool. Dreams allow us to experiencing these, and each dream phase is what I would call it, is really a brainwave state. So it feels like phasing when you're experiencing it, but when you're looking at it scientifically, is what actually is going on in the mind. This would be more like the scientific perspective of it. Um, and I do love training the actual experiencing of the dreams as well as what's actually going on and how do we, amplify this in creative ways. So dream rehearsal enhances resilience for space missions and beyond. So my goal this year is really just to continue developing this program and talking about it, getting feedback, and just stirring the pot on it. But in 2026, I do have like my first analog mission that we're going to be integrating some of these things at just like a phase one. And the first one is just really using dreams as like a rehearsal space, gaining lucidity so that it's not going to be introduced in the sense that I'm going to show up at an analog mission and be like, hey, this is your first time hearing about it. Let's get you to be a master in like 2 weeks. This will actually end up being a program that we're going to work with the analog astronauts for several months before they even go into the space. That way they have a handle of it and can utilize it kind of in their own creative way. But the beauty of it is they will be able to use it as a rehearsal space for resilient space missions, even based on the research and their own personal goals of what they would like to discover in the environment of an analog mission. So understanding the origin point is training. Obviously, I've been talking about lucid awareness a lot, and that really is just phase one and getting it going. Lucid awareness enhances your ability to recognize dreams while still asleep. This really just opens the door to so many potential and possibilities of how you want to perceive dreams, communicate, and work in your dream space. People use this for all sorts of things. So you could use it in your personal life. What we're doing here is talking about it, obviously, in the enhancing of consciousness levels for space exploration on a cognitive way. So this really would be fun to kind of get playful in your sense of trying to experience a quantum conscious dream. What can you do in a dream? It's literally endless potential. And I love just seeing where people go with it. So I highly encourage this as always. Cognitive resilience. Obviously, if we're playing around with new boundaries that don't exist in our physical reality, this is still training and building a cognitive resilience, as well as neuroplasticity towards it. We have seen some really interesting things come from dreams. I have even seen people have their dreams not just give them problems, but solutions. I've seen it help them heal physical illnesses or ailments in their life, either by suggesting something or doing something physically in the dream. Obviously, these are just records of people sharing their dreams from a subjective way, but it definitely gets a lot of curiosity going on. What's really going on here, especially with the neuroplasticity part. So this category is really just awesome. And then the creative adaptation, fostering innovative thinking by exploring your subconscious during dream states. This is huge. It's really getting to know yourself, how you operate, exploring the depths of your own psyche, and kind of working through your weak links and coming up with your own creative formats on how you would adapt to not just your life in one way, but mostly mind, body, and soul, which I think is huge in kind of introducing to extreme environments, even and how you're emotionally connecting to it or psychologically connecting to those spaces. I feel like a lot of the times when I hear people talk about space psychology, a lot of it seems like almost being a victim to your mind or your psyche. But when you're really exploring the depthness of it, you're not really victimizing it anymore. You're like in the story or the mythology of it. You're experiencing it. I think that really is where the creative adaptation and a lot of this comes inspired from. Then we have protocol-based systems, implementing structured techniques for optimal performance in dream exploration. Now, I do have my own protocols and base systems that I use, and I've developed a lot of these from my own subjective realities and experiences in the dream states, and doing my best to actually bring it into a formatted form or system that I can share with others. But everyone's mind is very different and unique. And so what might work for me might not work for others. So this is where it's really just teaching people how to build their own. And I think that's really important, especially when you're kind of going into some of the depths of, like your value systems, learning, how do you handle your emotional systems? How are you collaborating with your subconscious mind? How do you even deal with things that kind of push the limits of your belief systems, your reality, kind of getting you out in like that middle of the ocean? You kind of, when your foundation completely crumbles and you have to build again, where are you finding your inner guidance? You're rewiring yourself. When you know how to interact with your subconscious mind on these levels, you start to build your own protocol bases. I like to call it also your own playground. Maybe it's my own imaginative way of a metaphor, but it is your own playground where everyone's kind of existing in society in the same playground. When you get to certain levels, you can actually create your own. And it's very much like your own thumbprint. It's very unique to you, and it's very authentic. So I like doing that. I think it really expands how people learn and perceive, kind of just gets you coloring outside the lines a lot. Oh, and I guess that's a bit of the end of it. So it's obviously thank you for joining the masterclass. I'm going to leave room though to ask questions. I know I went through a lot here. But I think the basic keynotes here is exploring your potential through your subconscious mind, right? Unlocking new pathways in human performance through dreams and cognition. Transformative insights that are awaiting. This is gaining knowledge on how dreams can enhance in stress management and problem solving at some of this core stuff. Also your operating systems. I do have free workshops that I do host. It's saying join the journey. So I do host bi-weekly workshops for the space industry specifically, where we're actually working through dreams. I use it as a self-application journey. So I give a little bit of a lecture, teach as we go, but it's really just trying to get hands-on, leaving an open space for people to actually talk, ask questions, get more involved in an explorative way. So I will leave that link. Actually, follow me on LinkedIn or message me. I will send my email in this too. So if you want to email me, connect with me and I'll set you up with some of my stuff or get you on my email list where I've got a lot of this stuff. And let me stop sharing screen here just for just a second. Oops. There. So I can see you guys in your chats. Okay, so I realized that was a lot. So I'm a little curious. Let's see, I think there were some chats and messages. So I'm just going to read through your guys' stuff real quick. And if anyone wants to come off camera and ask something, please, I don't mind that either, especially at this point. So Martina, hi Martina, you're always coming to my stuff. I love this. Hi, I'm passionate about aerospace and its ability to speed up innovation for space and Earth, including human health, space medicine. Happy to stay connected with those. Okay, so she's introducing herself. Very nice. Happy to stay with those interested in LinkedIn. Where to find her? Oh yeah, she's got information there. Yeah, Martina, you'll love the dream space. I know you've been hanging around here for a while too, and there's some interesting stuff with the way dreams kind of help interact even with the physical body and helping with healing or medical stuff. Matt introducing himself, mechanical engineer, BA Space. Okay, hi Matt, nice to meet you. Okay. Can you mathematically account the difference between a 2-pole to a 16-pole alternator? Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
Do you sorry, that's one of my the tech guy. I feel like that might be a little unrelated. Okay, we're from Kenya. Okay, so nice. I'm glad everyone's introducing themselves. Tonight, Kelly Books. Oops. Wait, an astronaut, Scott Kelly's book, Endurance, he discusses the way that his dreams on the ISS were far more wacky and exaggerated than terrestrial dreams. The flashes from his high energy particles, along with hold on, I'm trying to scroll these without skipping too much. Along with his apparent waitlist are likely causes of this. This would be very difficult to emulate in an analog mission, but perhaps there is a way. Maybe this is a potential area of research. So with something like that, there are different types of studies that would overlay a little bit and kind of connect some of this, I think, at a core. Because there are a lot of like dreams and research on how like land and locations affect dream states. So I think at that sense, we could start there as a base. But yeah, like going into space, that data, I feel like I don't know how many people are out there recording their dreams consistently. But so I would imagine the data is probably not as thick, but it does actually, it's interesting because it's going to show you how your subconscious mind is changing and adapting. So if you're in an analog mission and you feel like safe and secure and you know you're in a simulation, like your subconscious mind will relate to some of that, like realistically, because it doesn't really always know the difference between like a simulation and reality, right? But it also knows its comfort zones and like things like that. So I think you would really, it would change some of the data a little bit. I think you would actually have to be in extreme situations where you would be feeling that and resonating in your core, where you're actually in the real experience and not trying to recreate it. So I could see how there might be a difference. But location wise, there is some good stuff out there actually. So if anyone's interested, I definitely would just look into topics like that, doing the land dream locations. Historically, we see a lot of that in a very mystic way. So a lot of times people experience like archetypes, which is like a Carl Jung term, right? So it kind of brings up a lot of different things. But either way, there is at least enough data of dreams and locations to go off of where you could kind of explore a little bit and see what like your take is on some of that. Because I feel like it is still kind of subjective until it gets to a certain level of factual a bit. To you know. And then another question: can you please comment on lucid dreaming versus visualization? I've never been able to lucid dream yet. Okay, so I think visualization and lucid dreaming are closely related. Like, if you're daydreaming during the day and kind of building into a strong imagination, I think it's a little easier to bring that into the dream state. It seems to be like a closely related muscle. So working both of those helps. Anything creative, meditation is also a really big one. I don't know how many people enjoy meditation. I know some people struggle with it, but it really is a good skill to develop. And that also goes well. So in the past, if I've worked with people who have like strong meditation skills, but they don't remember their dreams or hold lucidity in their dreams, it doesn't take much for them to switch over and bring that to the dream state. They usually do it quite easily, actually. They just have to set an intention and be like, oh, I'm going to do this. And they do it. So you can build this sense of awareness during the daytime. And then what you focus on in the daytime, your subconscious mind is going to mirror and focus on as well. So that's kind of like the incubating concept, right? Where that's that collaboration. You know that if your conscious mind is stressing over something or trying to problem solve something or contemplating something, your subconscious mind is going to be talking about it too. And that's why it's important to learn how the subconscious mind talks or speaks with its symbolic nature, because then you can really relate to it a lot more. And that's where like a lot of the collaborative opportunities start to appear. So with that, yeah, visualization is a great place to start if you're trying to get to lucid dreaming. There are techniques on lucid dreaming. A lot of people like to wake up randomly in the middle of the night or set alarms. I realize some people have partners or, you don't want to wake up your sleeping buddy. So everyone kind of does it differently. But if you wake up and you're able to fall back asleep quite easily, there's a technique in that, in the sense that you're kind of waking up your consciousness and then going back into the dream state 5 or 10 minutes later. And that is more of an in-between state where you're more likely to have a lucidity spot, like a sweet spot for it. And a lot of people like to use that as a beginning training ground too. And there's all kinds of techniques online and communities too. So like, I don't know if anyone on Facebook, I know there's a bunch on Facebook with the lucid dreaming. And there's so many techniques, it can go on and on. So everyone just find their own, don't put pressure on yourself. But I like to call it like a sport. Some people treat lucid dreaming like a sport. But it's fun, I think they get inspired by the movies and stuff like that. And, to have the ability to lucid dream is awesome. And a lot of people use it for their own ways. Um, with me, I'm trying to use it as an actual tool, something that we can actually uh, get to space with. So yeah, this is great. Lucid dreaming, imagination, visualization, do it all. I actually have my YouTube channel as a resource, and I do a lot of like guided meditations. They're a bit of a trance-like hypnosis states with storytelling, and I try to do like cognitive techniques in that, and it is all enhanced through imagination, right, as the core of it. So like obviously you're still consciously aware and you're actively using your imagination in this type of way, which I think it builds both parts, right? So if anyone's interested in that, let me know. It's Chelsey Turpening Coxsey on YouTube. And let me actually share my email here as well. Just for anyone who wants resourcing, good books, good reads, wants to see any more of my stuff. Okay. So does anyone want to ask a question even live or to come off like speaker?
Pardon my intrusion, Chelsey, and thank you so much for involving me into your great concept of dreaming, how we can enhance our imagination and try to create our own world and get into the space exploration. But I want to parallelly understand and need your advice and suggestion regarding the topic. Like sometimes if we totally focus on dreams, like and we overthink. We try to get into the mode of hallucination, and gradually we try to get into, there are many researchers, many scientists got into schizophrenia as well, like overthinking and anxiety, like how Nash equilibrium theory got formed, right? And there are beautiful examples as well, like scientist Ramanujan. He used to have dream about his deity, like he's solving formulas and problems in his dream, the greatest mathematician. But what I'm trying to understand as a human, as a per se, like as a layman, how we can understand the difference between overthinking once, getting into a hallucination second, third, we are getting into the right frame of a dream, or we can have a solution like scripting our own dreams, like creating our time to time frames, then aligning together and getting into one direction or something. Please suggest on this if I'm making sense. Thank you. Thank you.
No, it makes complete sense. I feel like I have gone through my own journey in that personally. Uh, though I always wanted, as a joke, I always wanted to go insane. I never did. And I think there's some foundation in that. And that's why I always say you have to build both sides of logic and intuition. So when I first started on a lot of these in-depth studies, I did not, like, it was the intuitional parts of myself that were getting my attention. But I would not allow it to create my belief system until I could logically prove it within my own subjective reality and have a form of foundation towards it. And I truly believe at the end of the day, it is possible to have your logical side and analytical side of yourself, the ego, support your intuitional part of yourself. But it takes a certain journey, which sometimes does get a little in the gray area. So I'm not going to lie, that's a really valid question of how you're worried about those three things. Because people have gone a little crazy over some of this stuff. Um, and there is that like in-depth journey, and it is a journey. But I also kind of go with this Jungian perspective for myself, where there is truth on the other side of the insanity. So there has to be some bravery of just almost not knowing, but not, and I like how you said overthinking is a big one. You can't overthink it. There has to be a grace with how you manage that within, navigate that within yourself. Some people don't have a healthy relationship with overthinking. Some people do. Uh, that I would definitely would say is something that would make someone go crazy. It makes you go crazy in general in your day to day, right? Overthinking is not healthy. So I think it's coming up with your own truths and your own foundation. That takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. Uh, it can get heavy. So that would be like the depth that Carl Jung often talks about. And for me, I always had my tethers. And I think that really helped too. So I had something that could always concrete me to what I felt was a factual reality in a logical, analytical way. that no matter what, how far I would go in the depth of what I was trying to understand within my own belief, right? That I always had something to concrete. Um, but I also see how everyone's a little unique in that. So that's also why I think it's important to provide space like this, especially when I was doing one-on-one sessions with clients, because dreams do bring a lot of this up. It challenges it. I don't always toss that out in my marketing concepts, but when you're diving into the depth of your psyche, it's a whole nother level. And I think that's why it qualifies really well in a sense for space exploration and going into this unknown too. Because what that is your origin point. We've been doing this since primitive man, like, and I realize throughout history and every culture views these state of minds very differently, and it's a very colorful thing. And I think that's the beauty in it, because we're all going to experience it in our way. But at the end of the day, we can actually say there are certain things that are concrete and factual about this and how we can support it with that part. So I didn't break it down maybe exactly how you're doing, but I hope the wholeness of my answer kind of hit all those points for you. And please
Fair enough.
exaggerate. You
Fair
can
enough.
add more if you
Fair,
like.
yeah, fair enough. Thank you so much. It's my first attendance in your thing. Probably on coming classes, I'll learn a lot. So thank you so much. Thank you for the answer, Chelsea.
That's a beautiful question. I love that. I've done some podcasts on stuff like that. I call it the journey of confusion a little bit in a nutshell. Um, and it is a sense of that. As humans, we need order to the chaos a little bit. And they're a beautiful combination. um, okay, so does anybody else want to come off camera and ask questions? Uh, I do have like about 15 more minutes if we want to, or we're good now. And let's see, let me look at the comment section too. Thank you, Matt. Enjoy your afternoon. I don't know if you're here still or not. Oh yeah, guys, today's kind of masterclass just kind of was starting to get in the tip of some of these topics. So I'll make sure the next one is branching off in a good depth way, and explaining even more. So if there are no more questions, I just encourage you all. I've added my email to anyone who's hopping on last minute. My email is in the chat, Chelsey Turpening Coxsey at gmail.com. Oh, sorry, was looking at the chat too. I do have the free World of Dreams workshops. I highly encourage everyone to come partake. You get the value out of it that you want, really. It's teaching how to self-apply a lot of this and just get it started. Mostly, I just want you to understand your symbolism so you can get some movement going. And that's a big, first step. So we have like really good conversations too. And let's see, Martina says, if we have spare time, can you share what and how when you practice meditation, assisted dreaming, or journaling? So my practice, okay, I will share that actually. My practice has been very all over the place. I've been doing this for about 5 years now. So there are times where I've been like very religious and disciplined with it. And it's like every morning for like a year, I'll sit down and write my dreams out in the morning. Some people like to do their dreams in the middle of the night. Depends on like your sleeping pattern. If you have insomnia, you're not going to want to get up and turn your brain on. Practicing in the morning does take more conscious awareness and dream recall techniques, or just being able to go into the re-enter a dream, even if it's just fuzzy little fragments, which I think actually builds stronger awareness. I know, like for myself, as an example, when I lucid dream, sometimes I'm even analyzing the dream while I'm dreaming the dream. So I'll be in the action of the dream while also as a separate aspect of myself that's observing the dream and analyzing the dream. Sometimes the dream itself, the scene will disappear and I won't remember it, but I will set key words in the analyzing of what I can get from it, and that I will remember in the daytime. So I kind of like anchor the meaning or the wisdom or what I need to get from that. If it's like a sentence, a quick word or two, anchor it. And sometimes it even comes through a feeling. So feelings really go strong with the way you relate to your emotional, symbolic content. Sorry. So I always say, don't beat yourself up if you're not journaling every day. But I do encourage to get in the practice of journaling your dreams. And that's like step one that I tell everybody. just start in the spot where you start putting it down. Because what you'll notice is dreams are puzzle pieces. You're not looking at one single dream, you're looking at a whole series of dreams. And they create one large message. They create your inner psychoanalysis, right? One thing that I really enjoy using as like a framework is the internal family system by Richard Schwartz. He's just breaking down your inner psyche as like it's a family unit and how it exists in your inner world and the outer world, micro, macro networking systems. He really took to like a family. I like it because when we were working through dreams, not just with me, but with my clients too, a lot of times it is actually representing like a family. You've got your inner child, you've got your masculine side, your feminine, your soul, your ego, your emotions, your patterns, all this data coming through. It gets a little busy in there. You kind of want to be able to figure out who's talking and who's talking to who. And it is to a point, you'll almost be like, I'm no longer I am we, because it's just gets real chatty when you start noticing it. And then so journaling is a big one. And you'll start, I would just start tracking your symbolism meanings. So like if you notice that like fear represents in a certain way or a certain pattern, or maybe your masculine side shows up in a certain way or pattern, start noticing it because each dream is carrying on a story. So your dreams are made by you for you. Only you know the true meaning. I don't use dream dictionaries. I never have, and I never will. And I don't use them with my clients. That's going off of like a mass collective cultural meaning. And some of them are pretty accurate. And like you can ask good questions to help someone understand what a symbol might mean to them, but you can't tell them what it means. So it's always just kind of exploring like the emotional resonance of the meaning. And once it resonates with the dreamer, you're like, oh, that's it. Dreams also are never black and white. They evolve in meaning. So it's in the sense that when you dream a dream, it might represent something at work that you're currently struggling with. But then all of a sudden you start noticing it keeps repeating over and over again for like months at a time. And you realize it wasn't just that one isolated thing. It's actually showing you a whole spider web of how this thing is affecting your life in which areas in your life. So it's basically this complex like AI system that's highlighting all of these error zones for you and how to problem solve it. But you have to acknowledge it first to be able to do something. So it's again understanding a language like coding, teaching symbolism. I don't even do computer languages that well. So I'm not a developer by any means. I've been working on playing around with it, and I do compare it a lot with the symbolism, and it is a sense of coding and the way you would interact with a lot of that. So it's learning your code, and like that's definitely the first place you want to start. So start journaling your dreams in the morning. Meditation, sometimes I use it very aggressively or like very proactively is probably better, sorry, better term. Um, and I will get very playful. Like a lot of people say you want a quiet mind. When I meditate, I do my own version of it. I go play in my imagination. I let these internal parts of myself speak up or collaborate with me. Sometimes I just go off of my imagination and let that develop into its own storyline. I still feel it's a voice of the subconscious mind, and it all kind of creates this synchronicity of how your subconscious mind will communicate with you, how it looks in the daytime versus the nighttime. But it's still kind of an imagination, symbolic, visual experience. So it definitely operates very differently than the conscious mind. Um, Meditation is fun. There's so many techniques. I would definitely say if you wanted to work with some of my modalities with a meditative state, I've got my YouTube channel is really good. And I'll actually post that on my LinkedIn page later today for anyone who wants to go check it out. I'll do that like in the next 2 hours. And then also, let me look at that. I can't remember what else she was saying. Sure, yeah, dreaming, journaling, meditations. There's so much. People practice in so many ways. So it's kind of coming up with your own. I used to hold a lot of obligation that I had to track my dreams, but sometimes it gets a little, just a lot and life is busy. So I'll go a couple weeks without writing a dream down. But then I integrate analyzing it in different ways. So I'll still be giving it my attention. I'm not ignoring it. I just handling it different based on my current life stances and what's going on in my schedule. Because we're human. So everyone's a little different with what works for them. I encourage you just to play around and figure it out. But ultimately, what you want is to have as much data written down as possible. When I work with my clients, we use Google Documents and we Google share it. So I'll be going through and analyzing their dreams as they're analyzing it. We'll be hands-on in the nitty-gritty 100-page document. Zen, go for it.
Yeah, I wrote a little statement in the chat. I don't know if you got it about. Do you feel that this is a precursor to having spiritual organizations and religious organizations mass adopt multiplanetary civilization building and creating temples and other churches on the moon or in Mars and stuff and space in general?
I mean, that's not my goal, but I do believe that like humans do that naturally. Like I really enjoy like primitive cultures and like I do love shamanism for the sense of just like how you can operate psychologically in that, right? And the philosophies that come from it. But what people do with that is different. So I honestly, at the end of the day, I think we just need to be using what I call this trifecta of genius. And I believe that's your soul, your subconscious mind, and your conscious mind. And when you understand how all three operate and get them in this coherent state, uh, people are going to feel spiritual in the sense that they're connecting themselves in this understanding, in this depth. And it's going to not just be their experience of themselves, it will represent what we call like that overview effect, right? And I know a lot of people talk about that. So I think something like this can amplify that. Now, what that would actually look like once out in space or being multiplanetary, that could look like a lot of things. Just because people carry a lot going through. So like obviously things that are here existing on Earth in those areas, I'm sure will still make it to a multiplanetary, but that the way that would evolve and the way the psyche evolves, I think mirror each other. So in the sense, it's still an origin point of whatever we're experiencing internally and how that's going to represent. So, like I guess in a sense, I'm sure we could probably see that as well. Yeah. I would never knock it. I think it's amazing. I'm also like kind of very spiritualistic too. Um, so but I love talking about the science behind it and how it operates and like how do we amplify that. So at the end of the day, I feel like what we're really talking about is like conscious networking systems and how do we operate in those and utilize it as a tool. So we're looking at how consciousness works with the universe together as a networking system. Like I think in the grand scheme of that. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, so I mean, so maybe also you're kind of alluding to the fact that there are religions and spirituality going on like towards that direction, but at the same time, maybe because we're leaving the earth in 3D or physical form, maybe a new type of spirituality or religion will sort of like start manifesting and start sort of like drawing us further, than simply how we're looking at it from like the inward outward and maybe like outward inward.
Yeah, well, your experiences shape your inner reality and vice versa, right? It's a mirror. So like when those external experiences are really out of the normal, and something totally different, that's going to reshape a lot of things. Now, I can't say what that would actually look like. That would just be my own guess or assumption. Uh, so, but I'm sure it would, it's just an evolution in a sense. And we've been doing that this whole time on planet Earth, right? Evolving and changing and developing. So I still think it kind of just goes with, like how consciousness is operating and evolving and how when we go into neuroplasticity and we're going into cognitive development and exploring a lot of these walls that we hit as a society to expand further, right? We're evolving. And I think to get to space the way we want to, that's going to take a demand of evolution in some way, shape, or form. But I'm all down for some soul and some connection and humanness and, you know, I would want that in space personally. In my own subjective experience, yes. It would mirror my own, like I know my spirituality would mirror in my experience and that philosophy or wisdom, if I was in that space.
Well, maybe a last little like an insight or something. Then with some of your insights and knowledge, more so maybe than most people in certain space industries or whatever. September, we are thinking of doing a little bit of theming the discussion of spirituality and space for like some of the larger mass meditations that happen like during the International Day of Peace. I don't know if you're aware of that particular event, but there's also some summits of the future coming up, and some some others crossover interfaith mix discussing just that, and it requires dialogue and talking about it. And I think you're very um sorry, I see I'm not the one that to particularly communicate certain things, but you seem to be very adept at communicating a lot of different understandings. So I definitely want to invite you to that discussion, however it manifests, for September around the 20th.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, message me on LinkedIn,
Okay.
and we'll connect, or email me. The email's in the chat too.
Okay. Thank
Um,
you.
no problem. Thank you. Does anyone else have any questions? I know we're getting close at the end here, so before we wrap it up. And if not, definitely email me if you're not already on my newsletter email list. I send out every week. If you haven't come to a World of Dreams workshop yet, please, this is your formal invite. I would love to have you there. And for everybody else, I hope you're doing